This is the Voice of Early Childhood podcast.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Magic Notes powered by Beam. Beam is a national leader in tech-enabled welfare services and created Magic Notes, an AI tool designed by frontline workers to help reduce admin and transform the productivity of frontline teams. The tool creates structured and compliant reports and case studies from recordings of meetings between frontline workers and their clients. Magic Notes was first developed by Beam to support its own frontline teams before being made available to other frontline workers. It has since been co-developed with frontline practitioners during pilots with several local authorities, including Kingston, Ealing, and Swindon, and is used by over half of all local authority social care teams across the UK. You can find out more in the link in this episode description.
A big hello to the Voice of Early Childhood community. I'm the founder, Angelica Solinska, and I have a very special announcement for you all. Our 2026 conference page is all launched and ready for you. We have launched the tickets early to give everyone plenty of time to plan and book. So our conference is on the 7th of March 2026 in Nottingham. We listened to your feedback and we have the speakers back again that you are blown away by and wanted to hear more from. We have Matt Baller returning and sharing his insightful work and practice around promoting children's mental health. And of course, Olivia Corbin-Phillip coming back again, this time bringing books to life. We also have our long-awaited guest, Cheryl Warren, joining us to discuss her area of expertise on neurodiversity. We will be sharing the remaining speakers soon, so keep an eye out on the conference page. You can find the link in this episode description. Tickets are already selling, so don't miss out and grab yours. I look forward to welcoming you all. A big welcome to all of our listeners and viewers to another episode of the Voice of Early Childhood podcast. Thank you for being part of our community and tuning in. So in today's episode, we're taking a deeper dive into the role of artificial intelligence in early childhood education. So not just how it can be useful, but how we can use it ethically, inclusively, and reflectively as well. As AI tools become more common in both classrooms and society, we need to consider, what does this mean for educators, children, and families? And what do we risk losing if we embrace AI without questioning it? So as you can hear, it's going to be quite a reflective discussion. And our guest today is Bina Palmer, who is a manager in early years, researcher, consultant, and lecturer in early childhood. So thank you very much, Bina, for joining the podcast today.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here today and being welcome to talk about my passion about inclusion and diversity, and especially around AI.
Yes, yeah. So it's really great to have you, because you really do bring out that passion around this topic, and you've got lots of different roles. It's really interesting, all the things that you do. So I'm sure that will come through in the podcast as we discuss.
Yes.
So firstly, let's define unpick AI a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of paint a bit of a picture. So artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to computer systems that are designed to perform tasks that are typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and understanding language. And we kind of need to think about, what does it actually look like? So AI is often associated with large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini, for example. So tools designed to understand and generate human-like text. And it's important to recognize that AI is actually a much broader field than this. So AI also refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks, like I said, typically requiring human intelligence. So really looking at things like problem solving, learning from experiences, recognizing patterns, understanding language, interpreting data, visual data, making decisions. So quite complex tasks, really. And this involves things beyond LLMs. So computer vision, speech recognition, robotics, machine learning, like algorithms, different expert systems, And basically, in short, AI is not one tool or program, and I think that's the danger of seeing it in that way and being almost, I guess, overly critical, or limiting the use of AI. It's an evolving field that spans many technologies, many applications, and some of them are visible in everyday life, and others are operating behind the scenes. So, we may not even realize that the AI is all around us, or we're actually using it. So, with that in mind, with that kind of broader picture, let's go into discussing what many people worry about. So, AI being a replacement for current good systems, or even a replacement for humans. So we should be embracing AI as a tool, not a replacement. That's what I believe, Bina, you've mentioned before, and that's what you talk about in your article as well. So, for example, supporting us with streamlining admin tasks. Is that right? Is that something that you quite advocate for?
That's correct. Yes. So, like you've just said, AI is not autonomous. Okay, it still needs human prompts and create information that is correct, and therefore, the worry that you will lose your job towards AI is not correct. It's actually you will lose your job to a person who has AI, who has learned AI. So this is something so fast paced that we need to embrace and work with it. And how do we work with it? I mean, administrative tasks. We have a huge society of working people who are burdened with administrative tasks. And as a result, we are not giving the quality of care to our service users, whether it is children, families, students, or practitioners, anybody. And that quality is losing. But what AI can do is actually make it better for you for those administrative tasks. And it can lessen that burden instead of sitting behind a computer to write daily notes or meeting notes or, your conversation. It can do it for you. There are some pros and cons, which we'll talk about it, but these are something that we can start working with.
Yes, definitely. We can really lighten that load with the use of AI. But as you kind of now beginning to talk about as well, it's important to not just over rely on AI and use that richness of our own human interpretation, I guess, our own human intelligence and interpretation and context. And that's where it's important to work with AI rather than thinking, oh, great, it's just solved all of my admin tasks. I'll just leave that to AI and forget about it. Actually, it's all about interpreting. So what kind of advice would you give to people who perhaps use AI for admin tasks already? What do they need to reflect on? Or maybe who are quite skeptical about using AI at the moment and maybe are working towards using it for admin tasks?
Okay, so key things is that AI again is going to generate information that you already put into it. For example, you might put a question or a prompt, and according to that prompt that you put in, that's what is going to be generated. Now, when you put that information and you get that information, you need to reflect if it's correctly interpreted to what you want to say, especially when you talk about children and families or individuals. I think that needs to be considered in the work that they do. It needs to reflect the voice of the individual as such, whether it's your own voice about what you're going to be writing or about the family or the child. Okay.
Yes.
So you have to reflect thinking, have I written it correctly? Does it mean what it is? It'll do it for you. It'll write it for you in a way that is systematic, it's readable, it's understandable, but whether it's a true reflection of what you want is what you need to read after it, and not just do a copy and paste, which I see quite often. But that's not what the idea is.
Yeah, so this is kind of talking about LLMs, like the most common use of AI that we see now, such as ChatGPT, and really using, I guess, artificial intelligence for that preliminary analysis of then like in initial ideas and things like that, and then applying your human judgment to adapt what it puts out as well. But then importantly, talking to it. And if you input a question, then thinking, okay, what it's given me has it understood me just like we would with another human? So thinking, I've just asked you a question and it doesn't seem like you're answering it in a way that I would expect, in terms of, I think you've misunderstood my question. So it's the same thing, isn't it? Just being really reflective and almost treating it in that kind of a bit like a social interaction, I guess.
Exactly. And that's that one-way conversation with that question and then the prompts. If you look at something like ChatGPT, you might put a question in and then it will give you, do you want further prompts? It gives you some prompts. So it take more specialized to that. But that is the human element and human touch and reflection you need to think when you're using AI in doing that.
Yeah, so vital. And let's have a little discussion around now, maybe going beyond LLMs as well, and using AI as a tool for inclusion and accessibility. So potentially using AI with children, or to support children with additional needs, for example, things like supporting children with speech, language delays, dyslexia, maybe even English as an additional language. There are tools out there to support children like this then that really potentially remove those barriers to education.
Yes, for sure. And whilst I don't know, there are many of them, but for example, for dyslexia, we use across the board is something like the Dragon. It's so vital. It helps. There's the chatbots, and then there's the Canva as well. But there's some platforms like in education, the Read Speaker that can convert text to audio, and this is really good because it helps people, in that field of needs. And this is something, again, it's so important because it brings inclusion of individuals, and for people where English is not a native language. So that, again, it's such a powerful tool because we are making sure that everyone's included and there's equity around it by using AI. And there's different learning styles adapted to it. For example, in my lecturing role, you can use AI to adapt individual needs of your students. So, it can tailor your lesson plans, to the needs of the children. And that is so vital because what you're doing, you're giving actual quality of learning and education to children based on those needs.
And in terms of tailoring lesson planning to needs of children or students, what about how would we go about doing that? Because there is also that danger that everything will be a little bit too, I guess, watered down and generic, because AI doesn't know our students. We know our students. So what kind of advice would you give there for people who are thinking, oh, great, I can just get AI to create all my lesson planning and that's it, it's all done?
And that is so true that you've said that, because you would just say, oh, give me a lesson plan for this day. Again,
some people
it'll
can
be
do that.
Generalized.
Yeah.
And that's not the idea. Again, comes back to your question and your prompts within it. You know your students so well, or the children so well. That comes back to you reflecting on it. Is this actually lesson plan fit for purpose for this specific person? And that human touch should not be left on AI to do it for you. That human element should be there. Again, something I have said when I was back in Dubai for my conference, AI has an ability to help you to think from the mind, but it cannot help you to feel from the heart. And why is this? Because that element of you actually feeling for that individual, the child, is so important to make it individually targeted for that person.
And I think this kind of links quite nicely as well when we're talking about individually targeting and looking at children's specific needs, thinking about ethics as well, and considering when we are using AI for potentially writing observations or analysing observations, and maybe even planning or reports or anything else like that, whose voice is heard or listened to, and also the fact that the the data that AI may put out, we need to question that, because AI tools could potentially be trained and are trained on data sets that don't necessarily reflect very diverse populations, or maybe particular populations are missed out. So it's really important to be reflective in that sense as well. And that very much is a more in-depth skill to have, an in-depth kind of way of thinking around representation, isn't it?
So true. I think this was my biggest thing, and I think I've delved into it quite a lot in my understanding, but also looking at the foundation of ethical challenges and the diversity crisis on this. So there are a couple of elements there. For example, first of all, the statistics showing that the gender within technology fields. And again, this is looking at statistics. It's not saying one is better than the other. It's saying how it's create that diversity crisis and how that can have an impact on what those algorithms are then created, and doesn't reflect on the people that we are working with. Because society is diverse. Everyone is unique in their ways. And the ideology of what is normal is questionable. It's subjective, isn't it? When you put something in the AI, how is that created thinking that one person is everybody, or that everybody is that one person, So, I mean, looking at statistics in tech world, in 2023, women held only 26.7% of technology roles, whilst only, I think, 10% had a representation in leadership. So there is already a crisis there. And if we look at Microsoft, 31.6% women in core Microsoft workforce, why involved, but only 27 are in technical roles. So why is this a problem? I say is gender is subjective, okay? And how gender has created those roles has created a diverse, need as such. What is happening is that when we are having these algorithms, they're created based on what the person is looking at and what that person is. And what Barron and Cohen's research identifies that men are systemizers, whilst women are empathizers. And that collaboration needs to be there when these algorithms are created, so that it reflects the true identity of those people when then you put things into AI. And therefore, it reflects the diversity within the society.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all about looking at the diversity in society and trying to represent that.
In the technological field, exactly. And then there is the other element of global majority. So you have to think of that as well, because again, within the technical fields, there is a lack of global majority in there. So the backgrounds, and when we're working with individuals, it comes back to children, students, practitioners, educators. We are working with a diverse range from a global majority. So when we put these questions in, the algorithms are not actually reflecting those individuals and those voices in those individuals. What's possible, those cultures as well. So that is a barrier as such in technical. But my main thing from this is that the foundation of this is because we do not have enough people within the STEM projects. The STEM.
Right, okay.
We need to change this narrative. We need to change this narrative on what is suitable for women, or what is suitable for men, or what is better for boys, what is better for girls. We need to change that narrative and go down to the foundation of this AI diversity crisis.
Yeah, and that starts from, we're talking about early years and AI in early years, or using AI to support children, families, educators in early years. And this is where it all starts anyway, encouraging our youngest children to have that interest and awareness of those STEM subjects and that being equal across the genders. And also what you were saying about, representation more generally as well. It's all about, if we go back to, anything, not just technology, it's not about creating systems or tools just for individual people, groups of people. It's creating these systems and tools with them, because then that way we're able to not just understand someone's needs, but their needs are actually being shared in that process and represented fully and properly, rather than we've created something that we think you need, or we think this represents you, and then here we go, this is what we've put out from our own subjective views or limited opinions.
That's correct. That's correct. And also, it's fundamental because it'll be a relational practice. We need to think with people to make sure it's relational, because everything we work with needs to be with people. Otherwise, there's no value for it. We need to have that grounding of it. And also, again, comes back, regardless of what I have said about these ethical barriers or challenges and diversity, there still needs to be human monitoring around it and emotional intervention in everyday practice by individuals. So as educators, when you're using AI, you still need to have that element of human touch to monitor, is it still actually true, or is it a true reflection of what you want to write about? And the same thing comes back with children's voice. I mean, that's key in everybody's practice. Children's voice is paramount. If we are using AI, make sure that the child's voice is in there in a way that is individual, because again, we don't want it generalized to any other child, but the true reflection of that child. Because, for example, in my field of work, if a child would come back or a family would come back and say, I want my notes, I want to see my notes, which is part of their need or their rights to say, I have to be careful to think that, is that a true reflection of that child? Do they have their voice in it? Or is it AI created and it doesn't have anything in it? So that is up to my accountability, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's always so we've got the child or family communicating, and then we've got the educator, and then we've got AI systems. So it's all with the educators understanding, interpretation, and taking in that information, and then working with AI, perhaps in an kind of reducing admin or workload, or gaining maybe further reflections. But it is, with that the educator initially bridging that gap between gaining that information and then passing it on to the AI, rather than it being straight away in, somehow reaching AI. It wouldn't do that anyway. So I'm feeling like it's important to have that reflective hat on all the time, regardless of whether you're going to use AI or not. You are always thinking, okay, I'm doing an observation, or I'm taking notes here in a meeting with a family, and am I representing the family? Am I actually taking notes on everything that has been said? Am I representing their voice in their, literally in their voice? This is what they said. This is a quote from them. This is a quote from the child. Because one of the questions that we've kind of had from the listeners around like AI and the worries is, can it be true? Can a child's voice be truly represented by an algorithm? And well, no, it can't. It's all about us bringing that information and listening to the child's voice from, ourselves. It's us listening, not AI listening.
And it's so true, Angelica. AI can do that for you, but again, comes back, the child more than the AI. AI is again created by somebody who has no idea about this person. It's just an algorithm of what has been inputted into it. So for you, it is to actually put that human touch of that individual person in there. And therefore, again, comes back, AI is not replacing you. You are actually needed more than ever as a human to change that. It's not ever going to replace. It's just an element or a tool like everything else to help you, like a pen. You have the capacity to hold a pen, but how you write it is up to you. And
Mm,
that's the same thing with AI. You have AI, how you use it is up to you, but you're accountable of that. So you still have to take control of it.
Yeah, I really love that analogy with the pen, actually. It really paints a good picture there. And I was thinking, what kind of advice would you give to educators if they are worried that if they use AI, they are perhaps their own, what's the word, like pedagogical and professional expertise is almost being diluted. What kind of would you say, what kind of things do they need to keep in mind? Obviously, we talked about having that human touch and being reflective. Is there anything else to consider?
I would say for educators is that it's not actually diluting, it's actually giving you more, embracing you with more information and giving you more potential to learn in a more sharper, stronger way that you
Mm,
might not be able to articulate quite quickly, actually.
mhm,
What I would say, take it slowly, even though it's a fast paced movement in technology. And it comes down to also leaders. Give educators or other people to give some time to learn about it and also
mhm.
put some training about it, because this is the other thing.
Yeah.
Technology is not an easy tool to use. For people who are confident, it's great. But for people, majority, this is where the scary thing would be that I'm not sure, how am I going to use it? But like you said, Angelica, we've had this for years, we've had it around
Mhm.
us, all the time. The phones have Siri, they constantly, we've had, how long have we had, the screen
Yeah.
Siri around as well. So we already around it. It's just that it's got more quicker, fast paced, is like I say.
Mhm.
So takes time to train about it. Don't be scared. Take time to do a trial and error as well for educators. I think that is important because you're not going to learn it straight away. But again, comes back the questions you put, how you put prompts, and you will learn from it. So don't be scared. Just
Mhm.
take time to learn it.
You are so right. It's important to take that time to learn the tools, just like we would learn how to use anything else. If someone was to come to us actually and say, we are starting to do forest schools, or we're going to go with the Reggio Emilia approach, or we're really like the influence of Montessori. Here you go, put it into practice. Here's some resources. Well, you're not going to just put those resources in the classroom and say we're following a Montessori approach or whatever it might be. Actually, it's all about delving deeper, learning, understanding, reflecting. How does this work for me as well? Just because everybody else is using it in this way doesn't mean that I need to use it in this way as well. That's a really good point. Training around AI is something that we don't really hear enough of in education, especially. I think because a lot of educators are kind of a bit scared of using it, leaders themselves, managers. That's where external trainers come in who do have that expertise. We do need to rely on those people who have more expertise than us in certain areas. We're not expected to know everything anyway. So I feel like with AI, it's not seen that way. It's either like, oh, I must know it, or I don't know it, therefore I'm just going to forget about it and it's a bit scary. I'll just leave it. We don't do that here.
Exactly, exactly. I think for individuals, I think that leadership role needs to come. For example, within the setting, we've inputted Microsoft Copilot and Magic Notes, but this has come from leadership to help those people to feel a little confident. Like no, we
Mm-hmm.
can do it as a team. We can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's giving that um, touch of confidence, because again, it comes back from peer learning. We all know
Mm-hmm.
peer learning. So if we have that from specialism, and then see how we as a setting or organization want to use AI effectively to help us as such. So like I said, we've used Magic Notes. We take we take it to visits or we take it to places and it does it for us. And when we come back in the office, but we had training for it. We had specialists to train. So we got a little confident, or, the team got a little confident in using it. Yes, there is a little bit of trial and error, but that is learning curve. We are all on a learning journey, and learning is going to be lifelong. So we just have to work with society and what is new coming up and take it slow and just ask. If you're worried, ask. I think that's what the main thing is, communicate.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to always communicate, leaders especially, to communicate to their teams that there's no silly questions. If we don't know something, then we must ask. That's the best thing to do. And you mentioned Magic Notes. What is that actually? I've not heard of it myself.
Okay, Magic Notes is an app that you can put on your phones, and it's a brilliant tool that we've started to pilot it, and they take it out on the phone. So if you're with a family or somebody, you are talking or on a meeting or anything, you have it there and it actually transcribes for you meeting, and when you can go back and you can put it on your notes. But what, as a manager, I do is make sure that they read it, make sure that it actually describes or says what you had or what the person had listened or what they had said. So it doesn't dilute the information to something different, if that makes sense. So there is still that, because we have to put it on systems that are governed, ethically needs to be by the government. It's governed by the government and it needs to be ethically done properly. So but this is something that we've implemented and it's working well. So now it's going to expand into different other teams as well to start using it. So it's a promising thing. I think it's a very handy tool to help with administrative tasks, because we have a workforce which is very burdened by these things and actually feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of there's a big emotional toll of admin tasks, all those pressures that are coming to educators with increased paperwork. I know a few years back we've had the new EYFS and officers saying we don't want to see too much paperwork, but actually there's still a lot of paperwork that does exist and always will do, to be honest. And the solution is things like artificial intelligence and these different various tools. And I can really see how Magic Notes can be useful for educators, even, like you said, in meetings, discussions with parents, team meetings, potentially observations too. I straight away kind of, in my mind, I can hear educators thinking, well, is this ethical, recording children's data and listening, recording their voices in the setting, and this is actually going into an AI system. But actually it's the same as what we would normally do. We would write things down on a device, on a learning platform, or we do also record children's voices on like a voice recorder. We then just need to connect it to a laptop, and it's a bit of a lengthy process. But either way, it's all the same of the things that we do normally. We record children's observations, and that is that burden of paperwork or, technological work, where we're sat down taking notes and we're not present with the child, we're not interacting. But if we have something taking notes for us and listening, then it actually writes everything down. It writes down what you're saying and you're in the moment with the child, hands-on, interacting, rather than having to sit back and write the notes down and say, oh, I'll just write this down, just hang on a minute, and then, not engaging. It just seems like a no-brainer to embrace these tools.
So true, absolutely. And this is where then the quality comes back, because we don't want to lose the essence of quality, the quality of working with the families, the children, the individuals. That is so important in everyday practice. And like you said, once you have something, a tool, there will be, I cannot say how technology is going to move forward with ethics. There will be some ethical, but you as a sector-run organization, you will be able to do it in an effective way once that risk assessment is done. That's what we're always doing. And like you say, it's always the case that we don't want to say to a child, stop let me write this down. We've lost the voice already.
Yeah.
The whole
We've
idea
lost
is
that moment. Yeah.
we've lost that moment. And with Ofsted or any other organization, if you're accountable, the main thing is, and this is across everything, not just AI, it is not what you do to prove yourself, it's how you do it that you need to prove. How do you do it makes it so effective? That's what they want to know. What is the impact of it? You could use AI, you could use notes, you could do it, but how does it have an impact is the most important thing. And that's how we can use AI.
Yeah, yeah. What impact is this having on the child? And actually, it's freeing me up so I can be with the child, and that's the impact. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. And oh, what was I going to say? I wish AI was taking notes for us now, so I can remember what you just said. But yeah, all these tools are just, they show us how we can really work better, bring in systems that are more efficient, think differently, and not just think, oh, I've always done it this way, so we'll carry on. I think it's all about challenging that perspective of this is how things have been. We're comfortable. We like the way things are, and any kind of change is just going to be a little bit too much and shake things up. Like you said, take it slow. I really like that advice because any change can be stressful, and changes which are so fast paced with AI, even if you start using ChatGPT and ask questions, it starts bringing so much content to you and you get overwhelmed and you think, oh my goodness, no, this is just too much, or this isn't what I meant. And it can get overwhelming. Or using new tools with children that are a lot more kind of physical and practical. They can be difficult to figure out how you're using them initially, and it's easy to get frustrated thinking this was meant to make things easier for me and now it's made it harder. But as you said so rightly, it's all about slowing down, taking the time, proper training, and always reflecting on whether this is working for you. Is it representative? Are we hearing the child's and family's voices through this? Are we hearing my voice? Am I bringing in my professional input in this as well?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And when you've talked about change, I mean, change is inevitable, and we've talked about this before, I think. What is important as an organization, as a leader, or as an educator, is you talk to your team, talk to, come together, talk as a team, if you want to bring AI, think about, okay, how do we bring it? What can we do? What areas should we work on? Because that is where your strengths will come from and your weaknesses. You'll identify your own weaknesses and strengths and you'll work on it as a team. And therefore, then you'll be able to embrace AI, because then again comes back to that peer learning, or you'll identify those areas. How can we use this? And you'll grow as a team as well. And something I just wanted to also add is that when I talked about STEM, STEM projects, and it comes back to the early years foundation, early years is such a vital area and core area of practice that actually influences everything in society. And when I talked about the STEM projects, is to say that we need to change this narrative that everybody and anybody can do things, especially around in technology, because that was the idea that, the diversity crisis in our AI, isn't it? That we don't have enough young people, young women, young, ladies or women in technology. It's because of this narrative that we have in early years, which we really need to change. Yes, go engineering, do this. You can do it. Let's make a society that is inclusive from the very start of early years.
I love that. That's a really nice message, I think, to round everything off. Thank you, Bina. And I've got some closing reflections for this discussion that also reflect Bina's article as well. So some things to consider and come away with is the fact that AI can support inclusion, accessibility, and efficiency in really powerful ways, but only when we use it in a reflective way and ethically as well. We consider the ethics there. And as with any tool, the value really lies not in the technology itself, but as Bina rightly said earlier, how we use it and whether it aligns with our core values as educators and the values of the setting as well. And we must really always continue to centre the child, the family, and our own ourselves as a professional in any conversations with AI or about AI in early years settings. And I just like to kind of bring this reflection to everyone listening. Where might AI serve your practice and where might it silence it? So I thought that's a really nice way of reflecting and thinking, is the way I'm using, it's not about AI being kind of an enemy in quotations. It's about, is the way I'm using it, could that be silencing someone, silencing someone's voice, silencing my professional input there, silencing my practice, or diluting it potentially? So that reflection I'll leave with our listeners. So thank you everyone who is listening. Please do share your reflections through social media by sharing this podcast episode with your own thoughts. And of course, you can always write to us as well. So just fill in the contact us form with your message. The link is in this episode description. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, reading the article, and you want to find out more, you can also take a look at these episodes as well. How Can AI Positively Impact Education by Richard Waite, and Using Artificial Intelligence in Early Years by Joshua Barr. And finally, of course, a big thank you to our guest, Bina. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and your voice on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.